Welcome in, Believe in Commanders podcast, part of the Believe Network, and we are brought to you by FanDuel. Scott Jackson, former Washington Redskins wide receiver number 13, Anthony Armstrong. And Anthony, it probably hits a little differently now for you now that you're out of football from the playing days, but what was it like back in the day when you knew your days were numbered? And it was just literally just countdown time, like till you had to be back in the grind on the field with training camp.
Man, Scott, good to see you. Training camp always brought a little bit of butterflies and always anticipation, right? That's why I went and grabbed my old hoodie from back in the day. It's not as soft and fluffy as it used to be, but dadgummit, it feels good. Man, training camp is just when you know, like all of the hard work over the summer, the OTAs, the mini camps, the weightlifting, the running, the conditioning tests, you name it. All those things are now going to be put on display, right? Have you improved? How have you really carried things over? Do you still know your playbook? Coaches are knowing if you're ready or not. And it's time to start to answer some questions, right? Everybody has a few questions next to their name. Can they make the adjustment? Can they understand play calls? Can they adjust on the fly? Now we got to see it here soon. And when those pads come on, baby, that's when them Rydels get the thumping, them shuts get the rolling. Real football is played, Scott. That's where we get to find out who's going to be on this team.
Exciting. This is what we've been waiting for all offseason. And again, we think the Commanders have done some good stuff this offseason. Now we get to find out if we know what we're talking about. One of the big stories, well, we've had a lot of stories. We had the PUP list stuff to get to here in a second, but let's start with the new breaking news this morning that tight ends coach Ben Steele, who was literally months into this job, is not going to keep this job. They fired him after a DUI arrest a few weeks back, actually a month back. It was in June when it happened. It happened before minicamp, and he was not available, interestingly enough, at the time for the media. Now it kind of all makes sense. And obviously, let the process go through. Apparently, he was not cooperative after being pulled over, would not submit to blood alcohol test or a breathalyzer. And the team has announced today that he's no longer with them. So now they've got to replace their tight ends coach. I mean, for you, how big of a deal is something like this, literally like 2 to 3 days in front of your first training camp practice?
It definitely takes the topic of discussion, to the forefront inside of that room, inside of that tight end room. And so it's unfortunate, right? And it's bad that this happened. And hell, with all the DUIs and DWIs, it's like, hey, everybody, get an Uber. All right, make a phone call. Just
Uber, Lyft. There's all kinds of things.
There's a lot of options out there. Let's make it home safely. All right, I'm not gonna say don't go have yourself a beverage, but let's be safe getting home. But I can tell you, I think this kind of lets you know, and maybe it sets a precedent of like, we're not going to deal with all this extra bull BS and malarkey and distractions going into this training camp. We're focused on this season and improving, and that doesn't align with what we're trying to do here. So maybe it says a lot about how they feel about other antics and type of behavior that's going on around the world too, that maybe they don't really align with that. So it's tough to see somebody lose their job, especially coming from Arizona, where he was down there with McBride, who had such an astonishing season. Would have loved to have been able to see that coaching and that knowledge shared on our tight ends up here in Washington. But hey, Chig and Ben and John Bates and them, they're going to be fine. Next man up, hell, he may have a future offensive coordinator in the room. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they've got, look, they have assistant coaches on top of assistant coaches now on these staffs, so I'm sure they've going to be able to, slide somebody in there unless there's somebody on the outside they like that, was kind of waiting for an opportunity. So, I don't – listen, if it would have been, I don't know, one of your coordinators, I'd have been like, oh, crap, are you serious?
Yeah.
Your head coach, but, not
tight
trying
end
to
coaches.
Not trying to downgrade the tight ends coach, right?
No, let me see. Sean McVay got his work. He worked his way through the tight end room. Mike McDaniel, I want to say he did a little bit of tight end run game coordinator. So you're like, he's a tweener, right? You got to know the offensive line stuff, but then you also got to know the route. So maybe you see Wes Welker maybe make his way over there. There could be, at least for these first couple of days, there could be a way to maybe have the tight ends join the receivers for the pass install side of things, then go over and check up with the linemen to make sure you know what's going on there. But, DQ, he plans for everything. This probably wasn't on his bingo card, but I'm sure they'll have a plan moving forward, Scott.
Well, we know this. They've known for obviously over a month and a half, right, that this was potentially where this was going to head was a dismissal of this person after they found out about the information. So we'll see what happens. All right, probably bigger on the fans' mind was the PUP list release late last week after we taped our last broadcast, which was, Dorrance Armstrong, not a huge surprise. Dietrich Wise. And I don't know if look, again, if I didn't see you during minicamp, I guess the possibility is always out there. You're going to be on the PUP list, right? And that's what Trey Amos is. But I think he's the one that people are the most concerned about because he's expected to be not just a starter, but really at some point CB1 here, right? Like that's the expectation that they drafted him to be CB1. So I can understand why people are, uh-oh, but we do need to remind folks, just because you're on the PUP list doesn't mean you're out of the entire training camp. You can be off the PUP list within days, weeks, whatever. It could be a quick time on that list and back to the field, but just means you're not ready to do everything when they open camp. That's all. So it's not the end of the world. It's certainly not great either. You wish he was ready to go right now, but this is why I think you saw them go out and go get a guy like Rasul Douglas, who's got a lot of experience, started a lot of games in his career, including last year in Miami, to come in here to kind of shore up that DB's room, that cornerback room.
Yeah. And I've been almost putting it in Sharpie, Amos and Rasul as the starting corners. Right now, you have to rethink some things, but maybe you don't see too much of a step back. The biggest thing is just that you wonder about the healing process, right? From the fractured fibula and how are things going over time. But hey,
is there a setback? You don't
trainer,
know.
Right? There's a lot of questions that come up with that. But then also, this team has also been cautious
very cautious.
They've been more cautious with injuries. And I think that makes a lot of sense to do that, right? The season's extra long, right? 17 games, and they have to go overseas. If he misses a week of early training camp on the PUP, I'm not too upset. I do feel like if it gets to lingering closer and closer to week one, you start getting past these inter-squad scrimmages, then you're like, I don't know, man, like what's really going on? But I'm going to lean on the side of them just being a little extra cautious right now. They know what they have in him. They just want to make sure he's all the way healthy and they feel comfortable with it, and they'll let him roll out there.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's an important piece, so I understand why people be excited or worried about it. And remember, too, I mean, like the difference is, of course, between like a guy like Wise and as good as Armstrong was, they brought in a lot of people at those positions, right? Like they brought in a lot of depth there. So you feel a little better about that room if those guys have to come along slowly. Although you've seen Dietrich Wise's workout videos, as I have. Oh, my God. I don't know. I think he'll be ready. The dude's been doing some serious stuff.
And a cool thing off the field, I saw some news. Friend of mine sent me a message that, hey, do you want to coach? I was like, what is this? It's a professional arena football league team is coming back to Dallas. And guess who the team owner is?
Who's that?
Dietrich Wise.
Dietrich
Wise Jr. and Sr., his dad. So crazy story. When I played for the Dallas Desperados, this is like 07, 08. Dietrich Wise Sr. was a coach on the staff. Young Dietrich Wise, his brother Daniel, they used to be running around Texas Stadium and everything at our practices, so we used to pick on them. He was much smaller then. Right?
Yeah,
he was
not you were picking on him now. Yeah,
280. No, he was much smaller then. But
right.
Now it's crazy to see it full circle. Now he's part of an ownership group. They're going into the NAL of the National Arena League. So pretty cool to see. That he's stepping his toe in that.
It is good. And I always enjoyed the Arena Football League, and I obviously, from a business standpoint, they've had their ups and downs and they've rebooted a bunch of different times, it feels like, but it is fun. I mean, it's different kind of football. As you lived it. I mean, it's crazy fast. And it is something I think has got its place. I just wish they could get the right business model together and put in the right time of year, right? So it doesn't kind of get covered up by other things and get pushed out, because I think there is an appetite to watch football year round, as we know in this country. Believe in Commanders podcast brought to you by Believe Network, and of course we are brought to you by FanDuel. Please like, comment, and follow us. Scott Jackson and Anthony Armstrong here with you, former Washington Redskin wide receiver. By the way, we had last week had a great conversation with Tim Rumpf, the one of the senior producers on quarterback, and those, if you haven't seen it yet, it's such a good thing. There's so much stuff in there with Jayden Daniels and the crazy nature of last year with the up and down, with the injuries and what have you. And it was a really fun thing to talk about with him and learning more about Jayden Daniels, the person, not just the player. And so if you missed that episode, please go back and check it out, because we enjoyed that with Tim. And again, he's a Washington Redskin fan, grew up in the area in Gaithersburg, did the football life on Dexter Manley. He's got a real history with the organization. So it was cool they gave him the assignment of Jayden Daniels. I think he nailed it.
Yeah, he did a great job, and we've been me and my wife, we've been working our way through it. I don't even know how many episodes we are now. I feel like they once you start them, they kind of end real
They come
quick.
into each other. Yeah.
Makes you like, man, that was good. And one where they were doing all the one was too much static. That one was going on yesterday. I found that so interesting. The cool thing is that you could tell he went like the extra mile to make sure he tells the story, in a very unique way. It's interesting how they do that. And then like people do that for me, they try to go the extra step for me as well. It's kind of like if you're hiring and you're looking for great candidates, it'd be awesome to have them be able to tell their jobs just what the hell they feel about the job, right? How do they feel about it? Why are they interested in it? And that's over here at our good folks at ZipRecruiter. So you can go to the website, go to the webpage, ZipRecruiter. Here it is, overlay. Bam, technology. There it is. We got it going. Love it. Here we go. Sorry. ZipRecruiter has a new feature that lets you show the most interested and qualified candidates first, so you meet the right people faster. So really, frankly, the Commanders are trying to find themselves tight end coach.
Yeah.
Go ahead and go on there. If you're interested, you could actually say, I'm interested in this position because I want to work with Chigakonkwo. I want to work with Ben Sinnott. I want to be in the room with Jayden Daniels. You can put that on there. ZipRecruiter has powerful matching technology, which is going to find qualified candidates quickly. Candidates can tell you in their own words why they're interested in your job. And it's no wonder why ZipRecruiter is ranked #1 hiring site based on G2. Now, try ZipRecruiter and meet great candidates who will go the extra step for your job. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And if you try it for free today at ZipRecruiter.com/audio, that's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Thank you for them for sponsoring the show.
We love it. Thank you, ZipRecruiter. And you're right. I mean, there's people that go the extra mile. That's what ZipRecruiter does. But I think you nailed it. Tim Rumpf did that on quarterback for Jayden Daniels. His part of it, he really did. Speaking of Jayden Daniels, I think everybody's list when you talk about the Commanders starts with Jayden Daniels, right? We've done the autopsy of last season so many times now. I can't do it anymore. Although it is cool to see the behind the scenes stuff. And it did make me feel better to hear last week that what you saw publicly was also happening privately, right? Like there wasn't like this big, oh, let's find somebody to blame. Let's find somebody to, scapegoat for the season, while it was happening. You grinded through it. It wasn't fun. It was tough to deal with. But you work on, you work on it, and in the offseason, you do what you do. Obviously, they made a coordinator change, right? And we'll see how that works out for them. But that was good to hear. They've retooled. I'm excited to see this new look offense, this new look defense. But it really starts with Jayden Daniels. I mean, everybody says when they do a Commander's prediction, dependent on Jayden Daniels' availability, right? If you're going to have a big season, he's got to be available. And nothing against Marcus Mariota. I love him. I think he's one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL, but I hope we only see him in the preseason and on the sidelines, talking to Jayden, between plays and between series. I don't, hopefully Marcus, he played more football last year than he's played in a bunch of years. And I'm sure he'd do that too, He'd rather make that money and not getting hit either.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I'm supposed to be over here like Von Miller, chilling on the sideline, man. Right. Bring me in when the game is out of hand. And I can just hand the ball off a couple of times. No, this season is going to start and end with Jayden Daniels. I mean, he's the guy that he's what is it? The stick that stirs the pot or something like
straw
that.
That stirs the drink. Straw that stirs the drink. He's the what is it? The force multiplier.
All that. You name it. He is the ultimate variable for this squad. And if he's out there, it immediately changes the way teams have to respect you. When you think about how the offense could be and how they could create a lot of different motion and conversely, whenever they talk about our defense, the Commanders' defense having a lot of communication and chatter going on, they have to be communicating to something. You get what I mean? You're not just yelling when people are standing stationary, right, Scott? There's movement, there's motions that are happening, which is causing them to communicate, which means are the teams we play are going to have to communicate. And is Jayden going to be able to navigate that, right? How much he can take on will determine how much this offense can really thrive and how creative they're going to be. But damn it, I think he's going to do all right. Because when we were watching that quarterback, you could see how frustrated he was. And he kept a smile on his face.
Yeah, he did.
But dude was not happy. He was not happy at all about being injured. Even the part where he was like, can I get back for this week? And it ended up being 2 weeks. And he's like, it's the best thing for the team. Like he said the right thing, but deep down inside, he was like, man, if this was the playoffs, I'm out there. I am playing. And Jayden Daniels is so important for this team's success this year. Over at FanDuel, have the graphic up. You can see it. They have a range of wins, and the highest that it goes up to is 7.5. Over and under 7.5 wins. You can make the play on 6.5 and on 5.5 wins over and under. And I think a lot of that does have to do with Jayden Daniels. If he's there, you got to think it's going to be the over. You would have to say they're going to have over 7.5 wins and think playoffs all day if Jayden Daniels isn't available, Scott.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, we saw last year what that did. And look, the division's good. I mean, I think the Eagles, there's some questions there a little bit, right, with their changes, without having A.J. Brown, losing Jalen Phillips in free agency too was a big loss, for their pass rush. But there's still a core of a really good team, two of the best tackles in the NFL on offense, with Johnson and Jordan Mailata. So they still got a lot of good things going for them. I don't think Saquon Barkley is going to, have a down year, even though his down year is still better than most backs' is up year. So, they're going to be okay. And Dallas has got a ton of talent. It's just a matter of, can they actually get better on defense? They look like they've done a lot of things to get better on defense. I think that offense is really good. So, and the Giants, I mean, I think you just figured they'll make the jump because of Harbaugh, but they are one of those teams too that, health, you got to kind of put an asterisk next to it because year one, Dart spent a lot of time in that tent. Scattaboo didn't make it through the year. Neighbors is not on the PUP list to start camp, which is a huge step for them. But at the same time, he's had a hard time his first 2 seasons, keeping himself on the field too. So it's going to be interesting with them. But the entire NFC, the NFC West, oh my God, it's loaded. As we know from last year, that's tough. That North's really good too. So, I mean, you're going to need everybody, and especially your star quarterback to be available if you're going to hit those win totals. And
all hands on deck, baby. Yep. All hands on deck. And better play and better players, right? They both going to got to go hand in hand. I think they've done a good job. Obviously, adding to the defense. I saw a list. I think they were like 6th most expensive defense on the coming into this season. So let's see if that translates into results, right? Let's see if that translates into some takeaways and some third down stops, right? Turnover on downs, something like that, where you're going to give your ball, give your quarterback a chance. And before we got on here, I saw a little audio. It was talking about. It was Aaron Rodgers. He was saying quarterbacks need to throw more incompletions in practice. He was kind of breaking down just kind of quarterback's thought process. And I can get behind that. I can get behind that whenever you are making that intentional incompletion, right? You're saying, I don't want to extend this play. That was my guy. I went to the next one. Hey, let me just chunk it in the dirt right quick and let's just get to a new play. In previous season, we would see Jayden take off, right? He's going to use his legs and do what he does so well. Dude is uber talented. We know he can do that, but we don't need it in first quarter. We don't need it in first quarter with 12 minutes left, right? Chunk that ball in the dirt, take a timely incompletion. Hey, sometimes the defense wins one, or you let them think they won that one. Then you come back later and we're going to hit them over the top of their head. So throwing more incompletions in practice, it's strategic. I've said it on the show. I want him to find 2 to 3 more incompletions in games, right? Don't go off and run. You can practice those things now. Those decisions are going to come up big for this squad. And I'm excited to see Jayden grow as a quarterback this season.
You remember how frustrating it was last year when the Commanders played the Broncos with Bo Nix? How you couldn't sack him because he would throw it away to the point where he was one of the most unsackable guys, it felt like, in stretches last year. And that's something that's been beat in his head since he was a young player by his father. And, you're right. I mean, sometimes, and he's not doing it to the peril of himself, right? He's extending, but throwing it away. He's throwing those incompletions. And you probably need to see a little bit more of that instead of try to be these heroic, runs. And you think about the end of that Packers game, they're down, they're not coming back in that game. And he takes that shot on the knee. And that's really where it all kind of started last year. going downhill on the injury front. You want to avoid those type of things at all costs. And like you said, like you got to kind of know the times of the game when this in the down, the distance, like when it's time to fold them and when it's time to, go for it and make that cheat code kind of play, which we became accustomed to as rookie season.
Yeah, 100%, man. And that's the growth that you look for your quarterbacks, right? The NFL takes chances on guys. They have a lot of talent, physical skills, but to last in the league and to play a long time, you got to get better on the margins. You got to get better in the smaller moments where you can't see it. It's not always lifting more weights. It's just the decisions, how you handle yourself on the field from play to play. And it's going to be cool to see, man. Really cool growth between Jayden and David Blau.
Right.
Like I said, David isn't too far from being in that position, right?
I know.
He's played NFL quarterback more recently than any other person in the room.
Here's my question. Is he the team's emergency quarterback? I mean, if worse came to worse, break glass, late season, oh my God, everybody's hurt. Would that be let's hope we don't go there. But I'm just saying, can they give him a dual contract? You're also the emergency quarterback, so you've got to call your own plays when you get to that.
Hey, look, they said that LeBron's signing with the 76ers this also Commanders related because it's Josh Harris, right?
That's right.
We could bring him on the show.
Josh Harris had a hell of a weekend.
Making a hell of a weekend with LeBron's decision being kind of post-ball. Maybe David was able to negotiate that into his contract, right? Put me as the emergency QB coach. He called his own play. Hell, going back to Arena League, Clint Dozell, shout out to him, man. He was our quarterback with the Desperados, and he was the offensive coordinator. He'd step to the side and get into his thoughts, and then come back and would call the play, and then would run the play. And that is tough, man. Shout out to Clint for doing that.
Wasn't Jay Gruden the same thing, right? He was like a player coach in Orlando, I want to say, as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was
crazy.
A quarterback, and then it was a coach. Arena League was a little wild like that
back
in the day,
man.
It was a man, but they messed up the game. Now they done made it too slow. They trying to make it like regular football, but when you could score 60 and 70 points,
right,
baby. People, I don't know what's going on. So you know what a touchdown is, don't you? They say, yeah. Say, well, I'm gonna score about 7 of them today.
It's like the CFL, man. Like I feel like they messed up when they tried to make it more, like trying to slow it down. I make it crazy and wide open. That's what makes it, fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, hopefully we'll see some crazy wide open offense from the Commanders early this season. And again, just days away from training camp. Should be a lot of fun. We'll have you covered here on Believe in Commanders. Again, brought to you by FanDuel, part of the Believe Network. Please like, comment, and follow us at Rated Armstrong. That's how you can follow number 13, Anthony Armstrong, on the X and on the Instagram. I'm at Jackson Sports on the X and at Real Jackson Sport on the Instagram. Until next time, we'll have camp days to talk about in just a few. Can't wait for it. Thanks for joining us here on Believe in Commanders.
See ya.